Welcome to another photo critique. I'm Toby.
And I am Christina.
And just a reminder that we've got the new method of submission for these critiques. It is to use that DB inbox, and I post a link for that on Sundays usually. We're a little bit behind this week. We're flip-flopping. Both of us have head colds, and so we're trying to wait until we didn't sound super stuffy to do this.
But I sound super stuffy.
But Christine, thanks for the sniffles. So, tear for that. And we're just going to jump right into it. Just remember, we are trying to, we had a lot of great submissions, some beautiful pictures, but we really wanted to pick just a few that we think we can give people, those who took the picture and those who didn't, things to think about as they're walking down the street and capturing a scene like this one. Or in a beautiful scenic location, or capturing the stars. And so with that said, let's jump right into our first photo.
So you had a lot of opinions about this one, so why don't you get us started?
Right back at me. All right, so I think this is a nice street scene. It is composed well with enough room around both of these subjects. We got a little bit of cutoff here on the left and then down at the bottom, but that doesn't really matter. But my issue with this, well, let me say the other things that I like. There's a lot of story here. You know, clearly he's some type of street artist sitting here doing that. He does it a lot. You can see that this is very stained. All of the area around him is very dirty and stained. So it seems like this is a regular thing that this gentleman does. And I'm going to assume his daughter probably has nobody to watch her at this time, so she hangs out on the street with him and is there sitting next to him. But because we can't see her face, I have a problem connecting to her feelings in this. Now, it looks to me like she's probably bored or tired or frustrated, or you mentioned maybe being a little shy and not wanting her picture taken. But we don't know, or I don't know. And so I like the framing. I like the composition. You know, exposure, technical, all that's good, but I'm not connecting to this image because I don't see her face, and she might even be just scratching her head. Maybe she has an itch, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, I sort of agree with you, but at the same time, I feel like this is an image that sort of creates lots of questions about what's happening here, and I think that's the whole point of, well, not the whole point of art, but I think it's a really important part of creating pictures and creating art in general, is just to give people something to talk about. So I like it. I think it's great. I don't have that much of an issue with the fact that we can't see her face and we don't know what's happening. I think even if we could see her face, we still may not know what's going on. So I don't think that it necessarily has anything to do with us not being able to see her face. I like the motion also in the hands of him drawing
I hadn't
or
even
painting.
noticed that. Yeah.
I think that's really cool. And I don't know, I think it's a great image. It looks like it's probably been sharpened a good bit and a contrast added because it looks pretty gritty, and I think that just, you know, adds to kind of the scene and all the dirt and debris and kind of, you know, stuff that's around them. So
right.
Yeah. So
But it's a point and shoot. It might have come right out of the camera, a little sharp like that.
Possibly. All right.
Yep.
Well, I think it works either way, whether it was done purposefully or not.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Jonas.
So this one I chose because it's a cool composition. This tree is really, it's very interesting, and you know, you're using your rule of thirds and kind of using 2/3 of the whole image as just, you know, it's being taken up by the tree, which there's a lot of detail and a lot of, you know, just interesting things to look at. But one thing in this image that is really distracting is the color balance. It's really super duper green. And I get that there's a lot of green in the photograph, but this looks green, and it looks to me like possibly blue also, to the point where it just does not look natural. It's clearly just, it needs a little bit, and it looks like, yeah, Toby's just fixing that up. So see what a huge difference that makes just to add some magenta. And now you still get all of the, you know, you still get enough green, you still see the tree, and you still get the composition, but it doesn't look as distracting, and it doesn't look as, you know, as fake. Right. So,
and I think I understand why people do that in a very kind of green, foliage-rich picture. You bump up the green, make everything green. But if you have access to Lightroom, you have the ability down here to control individual color saturation. So if you really want the green to really pop, you can come down here and that will pop just the green, and it leaves the other areas alone. So when we first started looking at this picture, I'll hit a reset button. You know, the trunk is green, everything's green, as Christina said, in the sky too. So that really detracts. I think the framing here is great. It might be interesting just to back up a little bit. Is it possible to capture just a little bit more of the tree? But to echo what Christina said, the rule of thirds here is played out so nicely that I think it's fine. These swirly branches coming down to the center point, leading right down to the bench and the man sitting there. Very nice. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this image struck me as being a really interesting image because of its simplicity. I'm trying to hide this thing, but it's being stubborn. It's just like, you know, you to me, it feels like this dock, these stairs, this pier is in the middle of nowhere. And I don't think that it actually is in the middle of nowhere. I think that using your composition strategically, you were able to frame it in such a way that it looks like it's in the middle of nowhere. So it's really cool. I think that's something that's hard to do. You know, we constantly talk about cropping out distractions and things like that. And, but yeah, I mean, I think this, if, you know, it could be that there were no distractions and this was just an easy shot. But at the same time, I think that this was done purposefully, and I think it's really cool.
It's nice. It's an 8-second exposure, or no, is it? Sorry, 120 seconds. So that's 2 minutes. 2-minute exposure, which has smoothed out the water, and I really like that shot. It looks like the water wasn't moving a ton, but it's enough to give it this kind of soft, ethereal feeling, and I really like that. I think the other thing that's interesting is we've got the horizon line, but then it's hidden by the dock and the rest of it. So the photographer could have chosen to be a little bit lower, a little bit higher, but then we would have had these conflicting lines.
Yeah.
And I think you did a really nice job at framing it at this level.
It's almost like an abstract image. You know, the more I look at it, it's just because of all the lines, or just a really nice minimalistic.
And the reflection in the smooth water.
Art piece, yeah.
Very nice treatment. And I think the black and white treatment works very well here. Great. Thank you. This is a birthday image. We had a reader write in. So we're including it. Plus, it's a nice image. Love to talk about it. And happy birthday to, I'm not sure how to pronounce your first name. Najul.
Daniel.
We're a little bit of an early birthday. Your birthday's not until October 5th. But happy birthday. And hey, you're celebrating a birthday soon.
I am, yeah.
Tomorrow?
Not tomorrow.
Friday?
Friday.
Do you want to submit an image to the image critique and get it critiqued since it's your birthday?
No.
Okay. All right. But let's talk about this kitty cat for a few minutes. Well, you know, one of the things we talk about, the rule of thirds isn't really followed here. The cat is centered, but because of the body is off to the left and the cat's looking to the right, that works. I'd like to see the kitty cat a little bit more to the left and gazing into the frame a little more. But really nice focus.
It's very sharp. It's very gritty. It makes me wonder if this is a feral cat or not. Well, yeah, just like, you know.
Oh, he's so close though.
Cat.
Well, with a 132 millimeter lens.
Just because he looks a little. His hairs look a little. I don't know. What's
wild.
the right word? Yeah, a little
feral.
wild.
His hair looks feral.
Yeah. Well, my cat can look like that sometimes too.
Yeah.
But he's really cute. It's a really nice portrait of this little cat, very sharp. And I think actually also the grittiness of the image is what makes him look even more like he's feral, just because like grittiness, when you add a lot of contrast to an image and you add a lot of grittiness to it, it makes it look a little bit dirtier, a little bit muddier, so it actually brings up different emotions when you look at it. So, or a different feel when you look at it, kind of, like the first image that we saw. So, I think that may be why I feel like he might be feral. But yeah, just nice picture. Very cute cat.
I think a great depth of field chosen because we were just starting to lose focus on the back fur here, and then the background is nicely out of focus.
The horizon's a little crooked.
It is, yes.
I couldn't not say that.
Yes. We could
try to fix it, but not too much without losing the
We've cut off the tips of the ears then.
Yeah.
So
give yourself enough. If you can't,
that's one of the many reasons why you should give yourself a little bit of room around your subjects.
Yeah, definitely try to get it done in camera, get the picture right in camera, but think about whether or not you want to crop too.
Okay. All right. Next, got this one from Nathan.
We both really love this picture. This, just something about the silhouette and everything else just being black and dark, and this is a really cool image.
It's a very cool image. I mean, the fact that he's a silhouette because of basically a huge firestorm behind him, or I think this is probably...
He's in it.
He's in it, right. It's a coal walker, what do you call a fire walker, somebody who walks across the coals. And just framed so nicely. We have a little, I think he's holding a staff or something that may just hit the end, but that's okay. It certainly would lose some strength if his head was out towards the edge or something, but because we have a full silhouette of him, works really nicely. Great exposure. I love that he is just completely a silhouette except for just a little bit of detail down here in the fire. And the motion of these sparks. What was our shutter speed here? 1/80th of a second. The motion of the sparks.
It's just perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I think this is one of those situations where you might not think of this right from the start, and you might take a photo of, expose for the subject, make sure that you get the subject's face and the subject's features. But this makes just such a wonderfully interesting image as well. More interesting than I think anything else that you could photograph about this scene. Obviously, there was a little bit of luck and a little bit of timing involved, but that's goes for just about every other image. But yeah, no, I love this image. It's very awesome.
Yep. I like this one little errant spark out here. And it's great that, again, luck or framing, I don't know, but no distracting lights in the background, nothing else, just this. Yeah. Nicely done. I got this one from Jonathan, and I have a soft spot for flowy water pictures. I love to take them myself. I think this has a lot of nice elements, but my eye is right away drawn to that stick.
Yes.
The Y stick sitting there, and this is where I would do...
Looks like a wishbone.
I thought it looked like a slingshot, just waiting for a big rubber band and a bunch of acorns to shoot it. People. Squirrels.
Yeah, see, so that's... When you... I don't know, I feel like we just unintentionally did this, but when you right away go to, talking about the stick and thinking about all of the things that the stick reminds you of instead of focusing on... That's
what our brain does when we look at the picture.
Right, but that's when, that's a good guide or a guide to tell you, oh, maybe, I should remove the stick, or, we don't want people to be focusing on the stick that much.
And well, it brings up the question of, how much post-processing is acceptable to pictures, and that's a very blurry line, and different people have different opinions. How much pre-processing is acceptable to pictures? Is it acceptable to move the stick?
Yeah, I mean, as much as you want.
Yeah, I agree.
Unless you are shooting in a photojournalistic setting, submitting an image to a newspaper or to the Associated Press or something like that, you have you can do whatever you want with your photographs.
Yeah. So I would move the stick, and if it was out of reach or you would have gotten your feet wet, I would have found another stick and knocked it down. You know, again, careful if you're in some wilderness place where you're really supposed to leave no trace, but moving a stick like this is not an issue.
You know, one of the things that I feel like also the stick does do for this image is give us a little bit more of a sense of scale. You know, that would be the only reason that I would think that you would want to leave it, just to say, you know, this is how big the waterfall is. It's as big as a stick. But at the same time, there's leaves that gives us a sense of scale. So,
and sorry.
No, that's okay.
And I would even be tempted to take it a step further. I've done this in pictures, very recent pictures on my Instagram, or yes. I would maybe remove these leaves and find one nice, colorful fall leaf and stick it here. Certainly not clean up this and this and this, but this is just such a nice little spot, and it's already got kind of a nice little color leaf there or two, and put it there. And if you're gasping, if you're saying, oh, that's totally poor form, then certainly don't do that. That's your opinion, but I think it would be acceptable to create or add to what is already a nice scene.
Right.
So stick aside. I think it's nice framing. You've, you know, enough room at the top to get this feeling that this water's coming out of this dark area down into this smooth water down below. It could even be a little bit tighter. We got a lot of water there. We don't quite need, there's nothing that happens in this, so you could tighten that up a little bit. But otherwise, I think it's quite nice. Feels a little warm, a little warm. Great, thank you, Jonathan. Ursula's got some dolphins.
So the thing that struck me about this image was just, I guess it's just the fact that they're dolphins, and you know, they're in motion, and you capture this using really nice composition and exposure, and you know, just enough motion to give us an idea that they're moving fast. I mean, I'm sure you were moving fast too, so this must have been like a super duper quick moment.
Well, I think they're playing next to the boat as they go. Dolphins do that often.
Sure, but still, I mean, what are the odds of capturing an image like this? They move so quickly.
Right, yep.
So.
Yep. I like it too. I think it's great, and there's a connection with this dolphin. Both dolphins, you see their eye clearly.
Yeah,
they're
kind
there.
of looking.
But you know, I wonder if they're a little bit forward in the frame, and I wonder if we put them a little bit further back in the frame, we lose that wake bright whiteness, and now they're moving into the frame more. I feel like that's a little bit of a stronger image. But overall, I like it. Treatment's good. Certainly seems a little on the sharp side when we get in close, and I don't know if that's a factor of any kind of resizing or something like that.
I don't know.
But nice.
Yeah.
I think there's even, you know, little bits of scars on the dolphin that you can pick out there, which are interesting. Great. Thank you, Ursula. Morteza is practicing with some starry sky pictures. And when we picked this one, Christina and I had a discussion about it. I think, well, first off, this is a great, if this is your first attempt, this is a great start. You've done a good job. We've got hints of the Milky Way running across here, and a field full of stars. Good. Now, I think if we actually zoom in a little bit, we can see that shutter speed was, what? 20 seconds at 16 millimeters. So you're just starting to run into streaking because of the 500 rule, which means that you're...
But you can't really tell.
No, you can't really tell at normal, and that's fine. But what I was saying when we first looked at this is I often like to see a little bit more context, a horizon line, some silhouette. And in some places that can be very difficult because there can be a lot of lights down at that level which just kind of ruin it. So really the only place you can capture the stars is looking straight up. But without that, I don't have a kind of a feeling of the vastness of space. We just got a lot of little dots in the sky. And I think this could also benefit from more contrast. Don't be afraid to tweak that contrast and really kind of darken, which brings out the whites. And we can even bring up the lights now. But so, bring the blacks down a little bit. Do you have anything to add, Christina?
No, I don't think, I disagree with the context part completely. I don't think you need any context. I think the stars are always really pretty. So, I don't know. I think this image is awesome without context. And yeah, I mean, sometimes you may not even have a good scene to photograph against the stars, so I think just photographing the stars by themselves is a good option. So.
Okay. Yep. And we can't see here, but I know this was taken with the Sony a6000. Quite capable of doing star photos. All right. And our last photo. We don't get too many action sport orientated photos. No. And so I thought this was cool. You know, a neat moment. These guys coming over the bump, two of them. They look really close to each other. Focal length was, we don't know what our focal length was. So I think they are a little bit closer than they look. That's one of the nice things that you can do with longer focal length, is really compress subjects or objects in the scene. My first thought, though, is, you know, our lighting is such that it's coming from up to the right somewhere, and so they're very dark in here. And I would really like to see the shadows brightened to give them just a little bit more life. That's exaggerating it some, but for a quick demonstration, just bring those shadows up. Then they really kind of pop and are more visible, and I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a nicely done image. There's enough motion that you can get that they're going really fast, and you can get a sense of the action. I don't know how I feel about this guy behind the first guy, kind of looking like he's about to hit him on the back of the head with the motorcycle. I'm sure that didn't happen afterwards, but yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
And being picky, this is, you know, very difficult, but he's just intersecting the top of that ridge, and it'd be neat if he was framed within it a little bit more, or you shot from a low enough angle that he was completely up there and really felt like it was high. But both of those would be tricky, and I think in this situation, it's overall a nice image. Great. So that was our image critique for this week. Next week will be another normal image critique, and we'll look for the call on Sunday. I probably will put out the link a few days earlier, but then remind people on Sunday. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.